This is the Baby Playbook podcast. I'm Nicolina, your host, and thank you so much for coming on, listening to us and tuning in. Of course, if you would like to rate us on any platform that you are listening on, we would be much appreciated if you did that. And thank you for tuning in to all of these episodes for our new year that we are back now and getting into all of those crazy topics that we kind of panic about and research about once we have a baby. There's so many things to consider, not just once you have a baby, but before then, when you're pregnant, and then postpartum. It's such a crazy time. So the point of the podcast is to give you guys information, direct information, really handy information and tips on all things baby, sleep, pregnancy, food, whatever it may be. And today's episode, we have a guest with us who is going to be talking about baby first aid. Now, I say to all of my friends when they ask me what they should be doing during pregnancy, I know that there's so many classes out there that you can do. You know, there's the birthing classes. I think there's hypnobirthing, this and that. And those are really great classes, whatever you choose to do. But one thing I urge all parents to do is a first aid class, a child and baby first aid class, because I think if you're going to spend your money on something, this is the thing that you want to spend your money on. You want to be really prepared. You want to be informed about what you should be doing because, of course, bringing a baby home from the hospital is really, really scary. You feel like you shouldn't be doing it. You feel like you shouldn't be allowed to do it. But if you have a little bit of information behind you on how you can help your baby if God forbid, there is a circumstance that you need to, you feel a little bit better about that. So I'm really excited to be joined today by the head of training at Rescue Blue, Tessabelle Scully. Tessa, it's so great to chat to you today. I'm really looking forward to kind of delving into what this involves.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get chatting today as well.
Well, you're a parent yourself, Tessa, so I wanted to ask you as well, how important is this to you, not just as, being part of Rescue Blue, but also just as a parent? What do you say to those people around you when it comes to making sure that they are aware that this is something they can do and that they should do?
Well, look, as a paramedic, I'm an intensive care paramedic with coming up to 14 years experience. I've always thought this was really important. Seen many unfortunate things out there with involving little ones, but since having my own kids, it has just doubled, tripled. Like I cannot stress the importance of first aid and of just doing something to empower yourselves to feel confident when it comes to your kids. You don't need to know everything when you're not expected to become a paramedic, but by doing some basic training, knowing when to act, and knowing just some basic things that you could save your child's life. So it is extremely, extremely important. And I've actually had a scare with my little girl the other day, and I was like, oh gosh, wow, I'm so glad that nothing came of that, and it could have easily come of that, because something could have easily come. So there's a near choking incident.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's such a scary time, isn't it? And I wanted to say, because you mentioned just there a choking incident, a lot of the time, I think, and I also, before doing the first aid course, I thought this as well. I was like, baby first aid, is it really necessary? Like, I understand child first aid. I thought, oh, maybe once they start eating or maybe once they start walking around, it's probably a bit more important. But can you explain a little bit about why actually you should be super prepared from the moment that you kind of take them home?
Yeah, so first aid is a funny thing. It's not necessary until it is necessary. Things don't often happen, but when they do, you really need to know what to do. I think those first few weeks at home in particular are very stressful, especially when you're a first-time mum. You don't know what breathing is normal. You don't know what's not normal. You spend so much time in the middle of the night checking to see if they can breathe or not. You're just unsure. You question yourself about everything. So by having those first aid skills already on board when you become a parent, it can give you that confidence to know what to do and just lessen your anxiety a little bit as well.
And tell us as well, what does the first aid course, even for example, Rescue Blues, kind of cover? Because there's so many different things, I guess, that can happen in the health-wise, medical-wise, with a baby, with a toddler, with a child. I think one thing as well to make clear about these courses is that, and I thought that was really handy, was actually how to handle the size of your child or the age of your child as to what you were doing. So whether it was like applying CPR is very different to how you do it to a baby than to like a grown child to an adult. But explain a little bit about, you know, the courses and what you guys cover.
There are a lot of differences between children and adults when it comes to first aid, especially around their airway, the size of their airway, and things like that. And then the how they use it and how they learn to eat and manage their airway, and then the conditions that we see in children and babies are vastly different to the conditions that we see in adults. So doing a child-specific first aid course is really important for babies and children. A lot of those skills are transferable between the two, but there's a very big difference from what is covered in a traditional CPR and first aid course and what we cover in our course. So what we do cover is our doctor's ABCD, which a lot of people will be familiar with. It's how to assess and recognise if someone is unconscious and not breathing, if they're in cardiac arrest. And now this isn't something that's very common in kids, but it does happen. And it's an assessment tool as well that we can use in a whole lot of medical conditions. It's not just for cardiac arrest. If a little child has a febrile convulsion, which some of your listeners may have heard of, we would use that tool to assess them after that happens to see where they're at, if they're really unwell or not at that stage. So some of the other topics we cover are burns, bleeding, head injuries, allergies and anaphylaxis, starting solids, croup, meningococcal, oh gosh, I don't know if I can remember them all. Choking is one of the big reasons that a lot of people come and see us. So yeah, very child-specific illnesses and injuries.
Yeah, there's so much to cover there. I remember one thing, I mean, I took away a lot from the course, but the one thing that really stuck with me, I remember, and because I did it while I was pregnant, was one of the paramedics told us that we should always avoid having like a hot coffee in the cup holder of a pram, because of course, you know, if a hot coffee ends up spilling, or if your pram bumps into like a bit on the sidewalk, that hot coffee can burn their very, very sensitive skin. And I remember going home and I threw away the cup holder of like the brand new pram that we got, and my husband was like, you could have just put water in it. But I was like, no risk. But you know, it's small things like that you don't really think of, you know, when you're not a paramedic or you're not in the medical space. So it's really handy for people just from a basic point of view. In saying that, I wanted to ask, when is the best time to do one of these courses? I'd love to know, is it something we should be doing during pregnancy for the reasons that you should be prepared from the start, or is it something that we should do a little bit later?
If there's no wrong time to do it, I think any time is beneficial. There's some benefits of each time, I suppose. As we've just discussed, I think it is important right from the start. Like, it is best to have that knowledge from the start. I would recommend that, like during pregnancy. The only downside is, as you said, there's a lot of courses to do when you're pregnant, expecting your first child, and I know I was so focused on labour and delivery and the idea of having a child. But then again, I've got my first aid training already, so that just wasn't a priority for me. So I know it's a busy time and there's a lot of other things to focus on, but I think it is the best time to do it. You also can pay attention more in the class if you go when you don't have children. Even though it's busy, you're going to get busier.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a nice thing to do with your partner as well, leading into having a baby. It gives you that confidence. So that's my recommendation. Of course, if you haven't done one, then absolutely afterwards. We do see a lot of people come in around the starting solids age, so 6 months approximately. They bring their babies along. Absolutely, we're always happy to have babies at our courses, but it can be difficult getting out of the house, juggling sleeps. We are more than accommodating of that, but as long as people are comfortable getting out and bringing the bubs along.
Can I ask as well, is it worth, also thinking outside the box? I know I, for example, knew that my mum would be watching the kids quite a lot once I went back to work. So do you get a lot of grandparents or, whoever it may be, sitters, aunts, uncles who may be able to help as well? Because, eventually maybe not for some people, but baby's going to be potentially with some other family member, and it would be really crucial for them to have that information as well on hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. I recommend anyone who's caring for a child should have that baby first aid training. We often see groups of families get together, and it's a really nice day. We do it on Saturday or Sunday. Some snacks and tea and coffee, some lunch at someone's house, and we come and do private courses and see whole families get together. Anyone who could potentially be caring for that child. Yeah, just to give you confidence that if something happens, because it can happen any time, that your child's safe or has an extra layer of safety.
Yeah, certainly. And it kind of also explains to them, I guess, because once you start leaving your child with someone and, especially the first time, you get really nervous about all sorts of things. And I remember one of the things I was like, I remember coming to my in-laws' place and I took the dog bowl and I was like, this has to go outside. It can't be inside because what if the baby's crawling and goes into the dog bowl, because we learnt about, that they can drown in the smallest amount of water. So it also helps you not look too crazy when it comes to all the things you ask them to do while looking after the baby.
Yeah. There's also there's a lot of change practices as well. Especially around allergies and what we're supposed to feed our kids when, the thinking changes quite rapidly, or the science changes, I suppose, quite rapidly. And so what the norm was for our parents and grandparents definitely isn't what is recommended these days. So getting everyone on the same page as well is also very helpful.
Yeah, certainly. And how often, can I ask, Tessa, how often should we be, I guess, either what it may be, redoing the course or refreshing ourselves? Because of course you can kind of you can naturally just forget what the exact steps were, how long you were meant to be doing the CPR for, how many counts you were meant to take. Those things, you can tend to forget. So what's the recommended repeat time?
Look, I suppose just the first thing on that point is it's very normal to feel like you're going to forget these skills. First aid is a perishable skill. I have a little bit of time off work and I feel like I'm forgetting everything. So absolutely, practice and refreshing is really important, but don't stress too much. There's a few small little things you can do to help keep current. The biggest thing is practice. So frequency and visiting these things regularly. So obviously you could come and do another course for accredited. This is a non-accredited course, so it doesn't give you any national accreditation. It's just knowledge and empowerment that you can do the right things. But for nationally accredited courses for CPR and adults first aid, CPR needs to be done every single year. To maintain that currency. And that's because it's a perishable skill. So yes, you can absolutely always come do another course. We encourage you, if you have another child, it's a good time to have a refresher. That's every couple of years generally. Or there's a lot of things you can do at home as well to keep current. Practice is better than reading. We give you a reference card in our courses with doctors ABCD on it and some of the common conditions and management and treatment. You can read that, stick it on your fridge and read it, but that's not the best refreshing. It's a technique to refresh, it's practicing. So take that card, do some little scenarios. If you've got older kids, get them involved. They've got dolls and babies. Let's do some CPR, talk through a little scenario of something happening, bandage the doll, practice on a pillow, whatever it is. Even just, I use visualization a lot I'm a single responder at work when I'm in the ambulance, so I don't have someone to talk to. And so I visualize a job as I'm going there, what I'm going to do, what I might see, and what my priorities are going to be in that situation. So just even stopping for a minute, chatting about it with a partner, and kind of working through a scenario will help massively. Do that
Yeah,
every 6
certainly.
months and you stay pretty current.
Yeah, certainly. Now, we spoke a little bit about starting solids, because that's a really nerve-wracking time for parents when it comes to putting food
You
in
seem
the baby's mouth.
traumatized.
It's just such a wild time, and there's so many things to consider. I mean, first of all, you're picking between baby-led weaning or puree, and then you're information overload. But
Yeah,
it
there
can be a
is. There
really,
is.
really anxiety-inducing time for parents. Do you have any? I know there's a lot of things that you guys cover in your course, but do you have any tips on just parents? I guess one of the tips is, if you do a first aid course, then you are well equipped with the information that you need, or the skills that you potentially need if something does go wrong. But outside of that, just how can we chill out a little bit more in the moment? How can we just approach the situation, give ourselves kind of a bit more reassurance that, if we do the right things, if we have the right skills behind us, we could all be okay.
Okay. It's hard. It's hard to tell someone just to calm
Yeah.
down. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah.
However, look, there's two things we can be worried about here. We've got allergies and
Yes.
anaphylaxis. We've got choking. And yeah, there is so much information. And I think you've already kind of mentioned one thing, and it's being preparing yourself, doing your first aid course, and having that confidence that you know what to do if something goes wrong. Um, we go into allergies and starting food a lot as well in the course, and I think that it gives people the confidence to know not when to not stress as well. Allergic reactions generally get bigger and worse as time, more exposures, and a child is unlikely to have a huge anaphylactic reaction first time. And I think no one needs to be sitting in a car park of a hospital feeding their
Yes.
child peanuts
Peanut
for the
butter.
first time.
Yes.
I hope you haven't done that.
We've all done it.
So yeah, getting that little more information about when you do need to be concerned and when you don't need to be concerned will put people's minds at ease. And then just making sure you take all the right steps to mitigate risks, I suppose. It's a scary time watching a baby gag. It's horrible. But being able to recognize when it's gagging and when it's choking, making sure your baby's ready to start eating, that they can sit up and all those kinds of things, making sure your food prep is right. Obviously, you mentioned there's baby-led weaning and there's purees, and, are you giving them the right foods and textures, making sure you probably avoid really high risk things. So your whole nuts, whole blueberries that aren't squashed, popcorn, things like that can actually cause choking hazards. And yeah, that's kind of, and then just breathe, I suppose.
Just, give it a go. It's so funny you mentioned my son just turned 5 a couple of weeks ago, and because for so long I was adamant that he could not have popcorn and marshmallows. We had years of the baby chino would be served, and I'd grab the marshmallow off the plate, and he'd have a tantrum. And so he was so genuinely excited to have marshmallows and popcorn on his birthday, and that's all he had for breakfast, this poor kid. But yeah, it's things like that, that you just don't know this information. So especially as a first-time parent, so it's really good to be able to kind of equip yourself with that. Before I let you go, Tessa, I want to ask you, I think every single parent that I talk to thinks that they have been to the emergency room the most out of all their friends, because it feels like in that first year, I swear, the panic drives into emergency are very frequent. Is it normal? Is it okay for parents to get that help? And just a bit of reassurance there that, you know, we all go through that stress during the first year, and it does, you know, you start to get a little bit more information, be a little bit more equipped with what signs you're looking out for, and we get a little bit better at assessing things.
Absolutely. It is okay to go and get help, for whether it's calling the ambulance or going up to the emergency centre. I know we all stress as mothers particularly, but as parents, but that stress is there for a reason as well, and it's to keep our children safe. In healthcare, we take a parent's concern really seriously. That should never be ignored. You know your child best, so listen to your instincts. Absolutely. I haven't been very good at doing that in the past, and I probably should have been better and gone up to the emergency before. So even if you get turned away and they say, oh, go home and do this and this, that's fine. That's great. Your child's safe. Just, go and get help. That's absolutely fine. But also prepare yourself by doing a first aid course. Just make sure it's one, like, you know, if not through Rescue Blue, any provider that uses current operational paramedics, because as I said, practices change quite quickly in healthcare. So you want to have someone who's operational and currently dealing with children and what to do. Yeah,
that's a great tip. Well, as you mentioned there, rescueblue.com.au, you can head there to the website to, of course, book a course with them and lock that in and make sure that you've got it in the calendar and you and your partner are very well prepared. Thank you so much for sharing today, Tessa. I think also these types of first aid courses are also great gifts if you are thinking of buying something for parent-to-bees. I always think it's such a handy, useful gift rather than another 3,000 swaddles. So that's also an idea for you guys. Yeah. I mean, you can never have enough, but still. Thank you so much for joining me.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Nicolina.